According to the New York Times cooking article, the Mary Pickford has 2 ounces of white rum, a 3/4 ounce of pineapple juice, a 1/2 ounce of maraschino liquor, and a 1/4 of an ounce of grenadine. Some of the other recipes I looked at vary, but that is about the ratio of each. I am a poor college student, so I got the cheapest of all of those ingredients, including buying a can of pineapple slices so that I could have the juice for $1. I picked the Mary Pickford because it was actually created in a Cuban hotel in Havana for a Hollywood actress of the same name. Rum was a popular ingredient in the Prohibition era because it was more available at the time. It would be smuggled in from places like the Bahamas into Florida. Gin was another liquor that was pretty available because people would make it at home. The 18th Amendment was what prohibited the consumption of alcohol, effective 1920 and then appealed in 1933. The white rum I got actually said that it was established in 1933, the year that the prohibition was repealed. Thought that was a cute detail. And I wanted to talk about the prohibition and the prohibition era and the temperance movement because it was women-led. This movement started around the 1830s and pushed for limiting alcohol consumption or completely abstaining from it. It came at a time when Americans were drinking more than they ever had, and more than they have ever since, each person drinking about 7 gallons of pure alcohol per year. Today, we drink about 2 gallons. Because of the heavy drinking, women and children were at risk of abuse by alcoholic husbands. And if the man of the house was busy spending the family's money drinking, that meant he had nothing to support the family on. This is one of the main reasons that women started to push for temperance. It was also quickly backed by churches because drinking heavily was seen as immoral by many religions at the time. During the Progressive Era, temperance picked up steam. One of the women behind the movement was Frances Willard, the president of the Women's Christian Temperance Union, or WCTU. She was the president from 1879 to 1898. Willard had a do-everything policy. She not only wanted to push for temperance, she also wanted the suffrage movement and women's rights in general. Stopping the consumption of alcohol was one of many ways to improve the lives of women. There was also another radical supporter of temperance, Carrie Nation. Nation was arrested 30 times for going to bars with a hatchet and destroying the alcohol inside. She would also give lectures about temperance and would give out hatchet pins at those lectures. She seems so cool. I would love to get a hold of one of those hatchet pins. But as we know, a lot of women did not really believe in temperance. There were many people, especially in New York at the time, that were at the speakeasies that popped up at the time, secret clubs that would serve alcohol. And some of the popular ones were in Harlem, where jazz and blues were flowing just as much as the booze was. Typically, people would come into Harlem wanting to watch what they thought of as deviants perform on stage. People like Bessie Smith, a protege of Ma Rainey, another queer blues singer who would sing openly about desiring women. There was also a specific club called the Clam House, which was known for this kind of music. Gladys Bentley was one of the main performers that they had, who would bring in crowds for singing in a tuxedo and openly expressing her attraction to women. Prohibition era was a time when spaces like this existed for women to live freely and be paid for their performances. Once the Great Depression hit, however, this quickly changed. A lot of women who had queer spaces to exist in started to crumble. There wasn't enough money. Gladys Bentley, for instance, stopped all of her performances because of the backlash that came to it after the Depression. And she denied her prior life and donned traditionally feminine clothing and married a man. I think it's interesting to look at the Prohibition era because women pushed for it for the sake of a better marriage or for their own autonomy because they had a husband who was drinking too much. And then there was women who benefited from it because it gave them a space to be who they were. And I think that's a clear part of women's history. There are women on either side of every argument.